Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. As we experience the month of Shaaban, we know that month was actually recommended to fast in it, following the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It was narrated in hadith on the authority of Aisha that she said, I never seen the Prophet Muhammad fasting a whole month complete except the month of Ramadan, and I never seen him fast in a month more than the month of Shaaban. So the Prophet was used to be fasting a lot in the month of Shaaban, and the night of middle of Shaaban, the night of middle of Shaaban was actually specified to celebrate it and to glorify Allah in it, with the majority of the scholar. It was narrated on the authority of Ibn Majah that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said in the night of the middle of Shaaban, celebrate Allah and worship Allah in its night, and fast its day, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down and the time of sunset to the earthly sky. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descend to the earthly sky at the sunset of that night and said, if there is somebody who is asking for forgiveness, that I'll forgive him. If there is any ask him for income and sustenance, and I will give him his sustenance. If there is anyone who is sick, that asking to be cured and healed, and I would cure him, and so on. And that will happen until the day of Fajr, our Fajr prayer. Also, it was narrated by Ahmad al-Nisa'i on the Authority of Usama that he said, O Prophet of Allah, I see you fast as much in a month more than the month of Shaaban. The Prophet responded, this is a month, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a month that people are absent minded about it. It comes between the months of Rajab and the months of Ramadan, and it is a month that all the deeds of mankind are sinned and lifted to Allah. And I would love that my deed will be lifted to Allah while I'm fasting. So the Prophet knew the value of this night of the middle of Shaaban. Also, it was narrated on another narration that the Prophet said that in the middle of Shaaban, in the night of the middle of Shaaban, the deed of man are lifted to Allah, and I love that my deed will be lifted to Allah and while I'm fasting. Imam Ibn Rajab said about the wisdom of the fast of the middle of Shaaban, that there is a lot of wisdom. One, that actually it comes, as the Prophet said, between two blessed months, the month of Rajab and the month of Ramadan. And people would be so busy from the month of Shaaban, and they will be absent-minded from its blessing. And some people actually think that fasting in the month of Rajab is more blissful, as it is one of the sacred months, of the 4 sacred months, and that is not true. And Imam is clarifying that people are way absent-minded from the benefit of the month of Shaaban, and they are more concerned about when the month of Ramadan is coming and when it starts. And that's why people are absent-minded from the benefit and the blessings of the month of Shaaban, as they think that fasting in Rajab, as it is a sacred month, is more blissful, which is not the truth. And also they wait for the month of Ramadan, and they become absent-minded from the month of Shaaban. And the Imam Ibn Rajab continues saying that some people will actually think that some certain places and certain times are more blissful than other, and that might not be true. So people will actually get busy glorifying the more, if you will, famous times and of the year, and the more glorify the more famous places on earth, and they kind of miss collecting the benefit of what is not famous or what is not mentioned too much. So there is a lot of benefit in the months of Shaaban that make it more blissful and more worthy of fasting, and more worthy of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially in the area of fasting, more than any other months of the year. So that's actually one of the meanings that made the month of Shaaban a blessed one. The second wisdom, that the month of Shaaban, as we know, a month deeds are lifted to Allah. Our deeds yearly are lifted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Prophet used to love that his deeds are lifted while he is fasting. And also the scholar said that fasting in the months of Shaaban more than any other months is kind of a training, a preparation, a conditioning to fast the month of Ramadan, and to have it fast in an easy way. Also, it was said, another wisdom of the benefit of the middle of Shaaban, and the month of Shaaban in general, that our age, our distant age and distant time to live on earth actually are written in the months of Shaaban. And that's why the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, used to the majority of the months of Shaaban. And that's why that the month of Shaaban was the most loved to the Prophet to fast after the month of Ramadan. And the Imam is talking about the hadith that Abu Hurairah was telling to the Prophet, I see that the most loved fasting of you, O Prophet Muhammad, is in the month of Shaaban. And the Prophet responded that Allah write in the month of Shaaban when a person will die, and I would love that my end of life come while I'm fasting. That's again the fasting in the months of Shaaban. So if it was written that we would die the next year or the year after, that will be written while we are fasting, and that by itself is a blessing. And also it was narrated on authority of Aisha that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, asked her, do you realize what this night is? And she said, what's in it, O Prophet of Allah? And Aisha asked the Prophet, and he said, and in it every newborn of the son of Adam will be written in this year. So everyone will be born will be written and ordained in this year, in this coming year. Also, in this night it will be written every son of Adam that will die, and in it all the deeds are lifted, and in it all the income and all the what Allah provide for us of sustenance will be ordained and mandate. So this is this hadith gather all the benefits of the night of the middle of Shaaban, as newborn are written, day of death will be written, deeds will be lifted to Allah, income and sustenance will be determined for all of us. Also, it was narrated in authority of Ibn Shaaban, the same meaning, that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, used to fast more in Shaaban more than any other months of the year, and because in it all the lifespan of mankind will be determined, or who will be die in the following year. And on authority of Ibn Jarir, another hadith give the same meaning. So this is some of the benefits of the middle of Shaaban and the month of Shaaban, as it was narrated in the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Now we're going to talk, inshallah, about the benefit or the wisdom of specifying the night of the middle of Shaaban with celebration and worship, and its day with fasting. And Imam is saying that regarding the benefit of the month of Shaaban, the scholar talk about its celebration and the fasting of the middle of Shaaban, and also they differ in their opinion. So we are following what was mentioned by some of the scholar, and we also listen to the other opinion of the other scholar. And if we choose to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more, or celebrate it and fast its day, we will know why. With regard to fast, to celebrate the night of the middle of Shaaban and specify it with more worship and more prayers, and Imam is saying that you can actually just pray 2 rak'ahs after Isha. That will be as if you celebrated the whole night of Shaaban. And the scholar actually differ in their opinion, ranging from some actually prohibited celebrating that night at all, and some said it is okay to celebrate it in the mosque, and another opinion between the two, and that actually recommended to celebrate the night individually at home. So some said you don't celebrate it at all, some said you celebrate it in the mosque in group, and some said you celebrate it individually. And some of what is narrated about the scholar with confirmation, among them the first opinion that say but that it is not really from the divine laws to specify the night of the middle of Shaaban with any extra worship, and that is actually an innovation in the faith. Imam Ibn Rajab said celebrating the night of Shaaban was not confirmed that the Prophet did it at all, or his companion. And he said, and also he said that there is no proof of specifying the night of Shaaban with any worship. And the Imam is clarifying that this opinion actually belonged to the Ata ibn Malik, and from the Maliki school of thought. And those who adopt the Maliki school of thought, or actually those who specify the night of middle of Shaaban with no peculiarity or no extra worship, they were afraid of any recommendation of celebration in the night of Shaaban, that it would become something people will think that it is ordained or something mandatory. And so that's from that fear that it would become an innovation or innovation that would become mandatory. That's why some of the scholars went to this opinion of no extra celebration in the night of the middle of Shaaban, as it is not confirmed that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, did it, or his companion, or the early Muslim. So that's what their opinion. There was no confirmed order from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to people to celebrate extra the night of the middle of Shaaban, or to fast its day. The middle, or the second opinion of the scholar, that actually permit specifying the night of the middle of Shaaban with more worship and more prayer and more effort in supplication and mentioning and remembering Allah. And they actually, among them also, they differ of how to celebrate the middle of Shaaban, or how to do that. Some of the scholars said you celebrate the night of the middle of Shaaban, as the Prophet Muhammad said in a hadith, Ibn Majah, that if the night of the middle of Shaaban arrive, then celebrate its evening or its night, and fast its day. Also, they said that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will descend to the earthly sky in the night of the middle of Shaaban, and will forgive all his servants except two brothers who are at odds, are fighting, or a disbeliever will not be forgiven. Imam Ibn Rajab also narrated the same thing, that Khalid ibn Ma'dan and Luqman ibn Amir and others they used to wear the best of their clothes in the middle of Shaaban, and they put on perfume, and and they celebrate that night in the mosque. So people will dress in new clothes as if it is a day of feast, and they stay in the mosque worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also agreed with them is Ishaq ibn Rahawiyah, and he said about celebrating the night of the middle of Shaaban in the mosque in groups, and he said it is not an innovation. Imam al-Ghazali also and I'm saying in Pakistan and India and all this area, it's very famous, or a very well agreed upon, that people will wear nice clothes in the night of the middle of Shaaban. And Imam al-Ghazali actually described a way of celebrating the night of the middle of Shaaban with a prayer, and this prayer called the prayer of raghaib, of wishes. And the Shafi'iyya school of thought consider it innovation. So Imam al-Ghazali said and described this prayer, a special prayer, and the Shafi'i school of thought said it is an innovation. And Imam al-Thawri said the same thing, that it is, this particular prayer is an innovation, that it is added or kind of added to the faith, and it is rejected. And the description of this special prayer is 12 rak'ahs between al-Maghrib and Isha, and it is recommended to be done in the night of the first Jum'ah of Rajab and the middle of the month of Sha'ban. It is 100 prostration. And in every rak'ah you recite al-Fatiha and Surah al-Ikhlas 10 times. So this prayer was described by Imam al-Ghazali and was actually commanded, but Shafi'i school of thought consider it an innovation. And Imam Ibn Abd Salam also talk about this prayer, and he did not endorse it. And this is actually again part of the opinion of the scholar who said that you celebrate the night of the middle of Sha'ban in the mosque. And the other group also said that it is rightful for you to celebrate the night of the middle of Sha'ban individually, and that every person would pray for himself or by himself, and it is not recommended that it would be performed in the masjids, in the masajid. And the Imam is saying that he endorsed that opinion, is to celebrate the night of the middle of Sha'ban with individual prayer, if you will, or as an individual group, but you celebrate it at home, not in the mosque. Imam Ibn Saleh said the night of the middle of Shaaban have a lot of benefits, and celebrating it with worship is recommended, and that will be recommended to do individually, not in groups. And the Hanafi school of thought follow that opinion. And Imam Shafi'i also hinted to that opinion, that a man individually would celebrate the night of the middle of Shaaban on his own. And that opinion rely on the ahadith, the saying of the Prophet, that talked about the benefit of the middle of Shaaban and the benefit of celebrating its night. And some of these ahadith are weak hadith, but it is recommended because of what's in it of goodness and what's in it of worship of Allah. And was narrated on the authority of Aisha that she said, I missed the Prophet. I didn't see him. For a while, for a little bit, and I went out to look for him, and I found him outside, raising his hand to the sky, saying, and he said, the Prophet told her, would you to Aisha, are you afraid that the Prophet would be away from you that I would spend the night, meaning that are you afraid that I would spend the night with another wife? And she said, "O Prophet Allah, that's what I thought." And he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes and descends in the night of the middle of Shaaban to the earthly sky, and actually forgive to many of the son of Adam the number of the hair of the lamb of the tribe of Kalb, and that's the tribe have a lot of lambs. Okay. And in the Hadith Ibn Majah, that Allah that the Prophet peace be upon him said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also look to his creation in the night of the middle of Shaaban, and he will forgive all his people except the one who is in a fight or have a dispute between him and his brother, or a one who is disbeliever. So the conclusion that the Imam endorsed, that it is not rightful to celebrate the night of the middle of Shaaban with a special prayer in the mosque in groups, but it is recommended to be celebrated individually, or individual groups at their homes. So prayer and supplication for the man by himself is rightful in this night, in this blessed night. So Imam Ibn Taymiyyah said the night of the middle of Shaaban, it was narrated a lot of its benefit and a lot of its goodness. And also it was narrated that some of the early Muslims used to do extra prayer in it. So the prayer of a person by himself something cannot be criticized, or something cannot be prohibited. And that is the opinion of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah. So, because of the early Muslim used to do that, and the prayer of a Muslim by himself, celebrating that night and supplicating to Allah, something cannot be denied and something cannot be prohibited. And Hanabali school of thought said the night of the middle of Shaaban have a lot of benefit, and the early Muslim used to pray in it, but to a group to gather in the mosque to pray a special prayer together is an innovation. And the night of the middle of Shaaban is a beautiful night and a blessed night, like the night of Eid, for example, that we celebrate. Also narrated on the authority of Ibn Qurdus, on the authority of his father, that he said, whoever celebrated the nights of the two Eids and the night of the middle of Shaaban, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will revive his heart in a day that the hearts will be dead. So those who will celebrate the night of Eid, Eid al-Fitr, both Eid, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, and the night of the middle of Shaaban, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will revive their heart in a day that the hearts of man will be dead. Also, in conclusion, that this night have a lot of blessing, and there is a lot of forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there is a lot of answer to our supplication. And then he said that Shafi'i, may God be pleased with him, said that supplication in this night is accepted and positively accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in the same, Imam al-Bayhaqi in the Sunan quoted Ash-Shafi'i that he said that we heard that it was always said that supplication are answered in 5 nights. Supplication are always positively answered in 5 nights. The night of Jum'ah, the night of Eid al-Adha, the night of Eid al-Fitr, and the day and the night of the first of Rajab, and the night of the middle of Shaaban. So there is 5 nights. Shafi'i mentioned that supplication are answered in these 5 nights. 1, the night of Jum'ah. 2, the night of Eid al-Adha, and 3rd, the night of Eid al-Fitr, and the day and the night of the first day of Rajab, and the night of the middle of Shaaban. The Imam is saying the same hadith that 5 nights our supplications are answered: the night of Jum'ah, the night of Eid al-Adha, the night of Eid al-Fitr, the night of the first day of Rajab, and the night of the middle of Sha'ban. And Imam Abdul Razzaq al-Bayhaqi also for Shu'ab, on the authority of Ibn Amr radiyallahu, may God be pleased with both of them, that he said 5 nights no supplication will be disregarded or not answered: the night of Jum'ah, the night of the day of the first of Rajab, and the night of the middle of Sha'ban, and the night of the 2 Eids. So we are in a night that inshallah our supplication will be answered. And with regard to specifying of the fasting of the middle of Shaaban, the scholar also differ in specifying the middle of Shaaban to fast in two opinions. Some of the scholar, and that's a majority, actually give the opinion to it is all right to fast the night, the middle of Shaaban and the day after it. And it was narrated on the authority of Imran ibn Husayn that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, he said to a man, if you did you fast the best of this month, and which are the middle of the month, the 13th, 14th, and 15th. Did you fast the middles of this month? And he said, no, O Prophet of Allah. And then the Prophet told him, if you did not fast, then fast 2 days of the best of the month of Shaaban, which is the night, the middle of the day of the middle of Shaaban, and the day after that. Imam Ibn Rajab also said, fasting the day of the middle of Shaaban is not prohibited, and it is among the three white days, or the three beautiful pure days, which is the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th, that it is recommended to fast of every month anyway. And the same was narrated by the scholar, the majority of the scholar, that fasting the day of the middle of Shaaban is a sunnah, as it is among the three blessed or pure nights of every month, then the 13th, the 14th, and 15th, and that hadith was narrated on the authority of Ibn Majah, actually is a weak hadith. And the Imam is saying this is the 3 days that are recommended to fast every month. So in the month of Shaaban, if you don't fast these days, then you fast the middle of Shaaban and the day after it. And Hanabali school of thought actually went to the opinion of disliking fasting the middle of Shaaban, as it was narrated by Abi Hurairah that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, if the month of Shaaban is reached, there is no fasting after that. So if the month of Shaaban, middle of Shaaban is reached, there is no fasting, as it was narrated that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said. The second opinion that it is really prohibited to fast the middle of Shaaban, as the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, if the months of Shaaban arrive, the middle of Shaaban arrive, there is no fasting after that. Another important thing, my dear brother and sister, if the servant of Allah was ordered to celebrate the blessed days of the year by seeking the acceptance and seeking the blessing of Allah, and trying to meet with supplication blessed day, raising his hand to the sky to gather and to harvest the benefit of of all the goodness that it is descending from the heavenly sky, what that person would supplicate in this night if he prostrate and got closer to Allah. So, as the believer were ordered to supplicate in the blessed night, what do they supplicate in such a night? And to answer this, to say there is nothing better of than a supplication that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, used or supplicated. And the Prophet used to say, the Prophet used all the chances to supplicate any chance that he see a blessed day or a blessed night to supplicate and worship Allah more. And the best and the best to narrated was by Aisha, that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and also it was narrated by Daraqunti and Bayhaqi and Tabarani in the book of supplication, that she said, if the night of the middle of Shaaban arrived, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was with me, was in her room, and in the middle of the night she missed him. She woke up and he was not there, and Aisha saying, I was jealous. I thought that the Prophet left me to another wife of his, and she start looking around for him, and she went to look for him in the other rooms of his wives, and she never found him, and she went back to her room. And she described him that he was like an empty gown that falling on the ground, and while he was prostrating and he was supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he was saying in his supplication, and I'll try to translate this to the best of my ability, my soul prostrate to you, O Allah, and my soul believed in you, O Allah. This is my hand and what it commit. O glory to you, O Allah, the one who are seeked for everything is great. O Allah, forgive my biggest sins. My face and my forehead prostrate to the one who created, and the one who created his ear and his eyes. Then the Prophet raised his head, and then he went back to his prostration, and he said, "O Allah, I seek refuge in your acceptance from your curse, and I seek your refuge, O Allah, from your with your healing from your punishment. And O Allah, I seek refuge of you, from you, O Allah, and I cannot," the Prophet continues saying and supplicating, "and I cannot gather any more glory and more praise for you, Allah, as you praised yourself. And I say, as my brother Dawood, the Prophet Dawood, I put my face in the dust for my Lord, and the one who is deserved to be worshipped and to be prostrated to. Then the Prophet raised his hand and his head and said, "O Allah, provide for me an income that is pure, clear from any evil." And then the Prophet, after he finished his supplication, asked Aisha, "What is going on? Why you are here, why you are looking for me?" And she mentioned to him that she thought that he left her or left her room for another wife, and the Prophet kept rubbing her knees, saying, "Spare this knee what they suffered this night. It is the night of Shaaban. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descend in it to the earthly sky, and he forgive to his servants except the two. One is a disbeliever, and the other is have a dispute with his brother." So it is a blessed night, as the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, mentioned, and it have a specific secrets that make it more special for worship and more special for praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, used to supplicate and to seek Allah's help and Allah's sustenance in such a blessed night, a blessed occasion. This is the example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So follow his example and follow his guidance in his supplication and in his submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, command Aisha, may God peace be upon her, to memorize what she heard of supplication and to use it getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, it was narrated that the Prophet told Aisha about this supplication, that the angel Jibreel came to me and ordered me with this word that you heard, so say it, and whoever say this supplication, he would never really raise his head from prostration and unless Allah will forgive all his sin. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us with the blessing of this night. The Imam is supplicating, so say Ameen. 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 Ameen, Ya Rab. So, my dear brother and sister, don't be absent-minded of the benefit of this night and this day of the middle of Shaaban, and do your best to gather as much blessing and as much benefit as you can, following the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The Imam is supplicating, so say Ameen.